Hello, good morning, welcome to the morning show. I'm not Pastor Dave, he's not Pastor Rob, and congratulations, you have made it to the end of season 1 of the morning show.
Yeah, we got there.
Slowly.
Yeah.
Surely.
What began in March at the height of COVID as sort of just a fun way to say, hey, our church family's stuck inside for a month. Everyone's bored out of their minds. What is something kind of fun and creative we could do to stay connected with people during the week? And here we are in November, wrapping up season 1.
How did this happen?
What has been your favorite memory from season 1 so far? We got some good ones. You and Reagan eating donuts off a string in those early episodes.
Yeah, that was because at that time sports wasn't going, and so we figured we could do the wide world of sports and come up with crazy, inane things to put on camera. Quickly, that was a segment that did not go because we only did 2 segments of it. But yeah,
Probably bring it back.
For zany craziness, I think that was definitely a highlight, yeah. For you?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's a few. One of them that you guys didn't get to see is we always talk to the guest beforehand to test things out. Doesn't always prove fruitful, but we test things
we
out to make sure everything's good. And we normally talk to the guest a couple minutes. We had Jared Wilson on, and he's just sitting there. And you can go back and watch Jared Wilson if you don't know his demeanor and stuff. And he's like, "Hey guys, glad to do this today. So, what is this?"
Which strangely every guest asks. What am I here again?
That was probably one of my high points of the morning show and season. What exactly is this?
He was an excellent guest. I think I definitely appreciated Kirk Kirkland when he came on.
Well, he was early on, did a really great job. Actually, I think when we really first saw that this could be something legitimate was Isaac.
That's true.
The musician who came to talk about mental health.
Yeah, that was a good episode.
Yeah, that was kind of like wait, this might actually be something. This might actually be worthwhile. And then from there, Todd Chipman, Kirk Kirkland doing a great job talking about bias and racism and all those kind of things. Yeah, I'm trying to think, what are some other funny moments we've had?
Well, I mean, as far as Wide World of Sports, you guys did cake decorating. So
yeah, I forgot about that. I blocked that out of my mind.
It's probably a good idea.
It's no longer there.
I have enjoyed the random times when Chad and Reagan have flipped to the other side of the camera. Those have been some fun moments to see them squirm.
Yeah, we got to do more of that in season 2.
Get into the
fun stuff, interactive stuff. And we had, I think we've had a lot of great interviews. Jamie Dew stood out. Jamie Dew was great, even interacted with before.
Navigated the Fast 5 question very well.
Can we talk about the Russell Moore laptop drop? Is that okay to make that public?
I think he's a friend of the show at this point. We could probably. So those of you who watched the Russell Moore interview, he's a hero of mine. He's insanely smart and also a pop culture just guru. Can I call a Christian leader a guru? Well, we already did. And so we had him set up, and it was great, and he came on, and we had scheduled.
It was a pre-record.
Yeah.
Which happens sometimes. We normally don't let you in on that, but sometimes
we do. We
choice.
make a joke about it.
But normally it's subtle. You got to really be paying attention
to
true. Catch the joke.
Yeah, but he was a pre-record.
Because sometimes they're just not available Tuesdays at 10, so we pre-record them.
He came on, did a phenomenal job, but I made the unfortunate error of showing my fanboy and being nervous the entire time.
I wasn't going to bring that up.
So at the end of the whole thing, I typically, like Dave was saying, at pre-show when we're testing everything out, we'll have a little bit of banter, kind of warm up the guests, so to speak. And then after, sometimes they'll stay on and thank you so much for coming on. Hey, it's so great. So what happened at Russell Moore was, we did the prayer sign off, and you just see this laptop go boom.
Yeah. It was like, thanks for having me on the show, guys. Boom.
Yeah.
So it was a very.
There wasn't we're gonna sign out of Zoom. Hey guys, click end meeting for all. This is the equivalent of slamming the phone down, and we're done.
So we're not sure we'll be able to get him back for season 2.
No.
Maybe season 7.
Maybe
enough time passes, he
Jason hasn't
forgets.
come back yet.
Yeah. Have I done this before? I feel like I've heard of this at some point in the past.
Please pray for the assistant that okayed that for him to be there, because I'm sure he's somewhere nice now.
But a lot of cool stuff has happened, a lot of fun stuff in season 1. It's been neat. I'll just say, if you're a pastor or involved, I know for a lot of people, we talk some of the names and things we have on this show, they may not even stand out to you. But if you're in this world, we've had some pretty big names on. And one thing that's impressed me is all of these guys are just normal people. There's no pretense. There's no, I'm someone of position or name or authority, or I have a lot of books. They're just completely normal people that, very humble, very real, which has been really encouraging, I think, to see that those people that have been exalted, quote unquote, in our movement are legitimately real, genuine people.
Yeah, very much so. Can kid around, and then also get into the deeper stuff.
Yeah.
And I appreciated that.
Now, the one guy who's in his own category is Matt Michelados. And I mean that in a good way.
Yes.
He's in his own category, his own hilarious world. I will never forget. And then I thought, I'll write another book. What would happen if a werewolf went to church?
And in full disclosure here, before this interview, I'm like selling Matt hard. Like, this is going to be a great guy. You guys are going to love him. And they're like, I don't know.
We're like, we let Rob pick who's coming on the morning show? Was this a good idea?
Win in the column.
What are we going to actually get on this show?
He has to come back for season 2.
That was hilarious.
Some new books coming out.
And really awesome. So we will definitely have to try to twist Matt's arm to come back on. So today we have one of your heroes.
Yes, I know. This is fantastic. So Dr. Paul Chitwood of the International Mission Board is our interview today. We are insanely excited and honored that he would take time out in his schedule. But yeah, this is another great hero of IMB president. This is
we're right in that season of Lottie Moon, which our church just took up a couple weeks ago with our missions conference, our 2020 global mission offering this year in honor of Ray and Bernie Wagner. And that offering goes towards Lottie Moon, also Annie Armstrong. And so if you missed that and you weren't able to give, you can certainly go on our church website and give to missions and be able to participate in that as we send stuff off for Lonnie Moon and Annie Armstrong to support the great mission work that is being done and led by Paul Chitwood.
All right, so let's go to our interview. So we are excited to have live in studio through the interwebs, Dr. Paul Chitwood from the International Mission Board. You are live from Richmond, correct, sir?
That's right, Richmond, Virginia. IMB's been headquartered here for 175 years.
You've been there a long time, sir.
Well, I said the IMB's been headquartered here for 175 years.
I was going to say, you're
I've
looking great.
been here.
175.
Looking good, eh? I do have a little white in the beard, but that happened in about 160 years. But I've been in the role for coming up on my second anniversary. November 15th would be my second anniversary of being called into this role.
I know. Congratulations.
One thing we always like to do when someone has a library behind them, we kind of peek behind to see what their books are. The big question is, how many of those have you actually read, sir?
That's the same question my kids ask me.
Well, I don't know how old your kids are, but it's the same.
It's true.
Yeah, another kid with a question, right? So,
pretty much. Yep.
That's me. Sorry, sir.
In a few degree programs, did a MDiv at Southern Seminary, PhD at Southern Seminary, working on an M&A at Notre Dame right now in Mendoza College of Business. So I've had to read a whole lot of those books.
Wow. That's very good. So, right now we know, obviously, International Mission Board you guys are continuing to send out people all over the world, but we're still in obviously a pandemic and even seeing worldwide kind of a second surge here. So how has that affected ministry in the IMB in a COVID world right now?
Yeah, well, it certainly had its impact on all of us and on the IMB. So there's a lot of different angles here. to address. One is, what does it look like overseas? And that just depends on where you are. So we've had people who have been locked down like literally for months, only permitted to, an hour out of your apartment or what have you, and martial law being in place. We've had other places where people move about freely. Just depends on the government's approach, depends on the level of an outbreak. What it has, in a positive sense, two really good outcomes of COVID in our work overseas. One has been the creativity that our missionaries have been pushed towards as dealing with the lockdown, travel restrictions, what have you, how to use online tools, how to use other ways of connecting with people when you can't get face-to-face or you can't travel. And we've really developed some tremendous evangelism tools, training, discipleship tools, across the languages barriers. We had a great story recently. We actually have a deaf theological training center in Nashville, Tennessee, and we were training a couple guys from Indonesia who were in Nashville in how to share the gospel in sign language. And coming through the training, they wanted to practice, and so they connected with some of their friends back in Indonesia and spent an hour practicing sharing the gospel in sign. And actually, some of the friends, two of the friends came to faith as a result of that gospel presentation online. That again was just practice. So some really, really cool stories. Another opportunity that has come about for us is in COVID relief projects. We, for example, in Mozambique, we're building hand washing stations. We know that clean water, soap, keeping your hands washed, good preventative there for the spread of COVID. And we built hundreds of hand washing stations in these rural communities where there's no access to clean water and soap. And as people are coming to wash their hands, we've had the opportunity to speak to them about the water of life, about the one who washes the soul and washes away our sin. We've seen people coming to faith. Most of our COVID relief projects have been food. Hunger crisis has been very real in so many places in the world, particularly in the refugee camps and settlements. And we're there on behalf of Southern Baptists, extending the love of Christ and feeding. And we've been able, in some countries where you can't move about, we've been able to move about as relief workers who are providing, some basic needs in that regard. And in all of those ministries, we're sharing the gospel. So how's it impacted things here in the States? Well, we were out of workplace for a while. We're back now in our offices in Richmond. We have had to have new approaches with social distancing. A lot of limitations they're set in place by the government here and the city government in Richmond and also in Virginia. But we do a big training when new missionaries are being deployed. We do 7 weeks of training. They're on site at a campus here and have always been very close there. We had approached that totally in a different way. They came, but we had social distancing protocols in place. They were actually locked down for those 7 weeks. They can usually come and go from campus. Nobody left campus. So, but everybody was a really good sport about it. And as a result, there was no outbreak. And several of them, in fact, I got a picture from a plane last night. 3 of the young ladies who are going as journeymen were on the plane heading overseas, who had just come through the 7 weeks of training that wrapped up a couple weeks ago. And our pipeline, we've been trying to rebuild the missionary pipeline. We were really low when I came into the role, just in terms of applicants and people who are trying to go through the IMB. But we've held strong even during COVID. We built that up to about 1,000 candidates who are working their way through to appointment process. And we were concerned that we were going to really lose ground there. But yesterday's number was 953. So we still have a lot of people applying and working their way through the process. We have a sending celebration coming up that will be aired in partnership with the Alabama Baptist Convention. We wanted to do that in person, but all that shifted, but we're doing it online. And 79 new missionaries will be appointed in that sending celebration service, I think just within the next couple of weeks.
Wow. Praise God for that.
Yeah.
So one of the other things that wanted to kind of highlight and talk about with the IMB is a lot of the SBC churches are 500 members or less. And sometimes when we think about, the people that are in the candidate process that are, being sent out, we think of they need to be from the big churches and, the 1,000, 5,000 member churches, but often a lot of times come from the average SBC church. So kind of why is it important for churches of all sizes to be a part of this process?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. And I think the first answer is it's important for all churches to be a part of this process because it's a biblical mandate. Christ gave his commission to the church, not to the IMB, but to the church and to believers to be a witness, not just in their Jerusalem locally, but Samaria, Judea, and to the very ends of the earth. And he's called us to make disciples of all nations. And so that responsibility, that commission rests upon the church. It rests upon every local church. And I think ultimately, if we consider why we're here and why the local church is wherever it is, whether it's in the hills of West Virginia or if it's in an urban area in Charlotte or Nashville, why is the church there? Why is the church here? Heaven's going to be better than earth, right? And so why didn't the Lord just save us and take us to heaven? He's left us here because there are so many who are still lost. And God in his kindness has given us a vision of heaven as it will be. And we turn that Revelation 7, 9, and 10 passage, and we see that there'll be a vast multitude from every nation, from all tribes, all peoples, and all languages, standing before God, before the throne and before the Lamb. That vision is not yet fulfilled because there are still many nations, peoples, tribes, and languages from whom no one has been saved and many who haven't heard the good news about Jesus. And so the church is here. We are here literally for that purpose, to get the gospel to every nation, to all tribes, peoples, and languages. And that, when the church asks, why are we here? That is the reason that every church of every size is here. And if we think about our context within Southern Baptist, I was 18 years a pastor. I pastored churches from 30 in attendance to 1,000 in attendance, and certainly see the value and the role of all of those churches in Great Commission work. And the beautiful thing about the way we work together as Southern Baptists in our cooperative missions model is that every church has a place. And as we work together, combining our resources and our efforts, the gospel goes exponentially further. We're able to do exponentially more. And it's important as we think about Southern Baptists, the average Southern Baptist church has less than 100 people show up on a Sunday. That's our average church. We've got our big churches, and we have our churches with 10 or 15 people, but the average church has less than 100. And so if the IMB wants to serve Southern Baptists, and that is our mission statement, rewritten and began sharing this just about a year and a half ago, our mission statement is to serve Southern Baptists in carrying out the Great Commission to make disciples of all nations. If the IMB is going to serve Southern Baptists, it has to serve that average church and every Southern Baptist church. And so we're trying faithfully to do that.
I think it's a great thing just in the changing the, not the misnomer, I'm trying to think of the right word, but I think sometimes there's a false perception that the IMB does our mission work over there. And in reality, what you're saying is like, no, we're here to help you do the work God has called the church to be.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it any better myself. And for us, this has been an important message that we want to convey. The IMB doesn't send missionaries. The local church sends missionaries. They send them through the IMB. So we're the partner. We're the sending arm, the way I put it. We're the sending arm of Southern Baptist churches. And in that role, our posture must be one of humility and one of a servant as an organization, here to serve the church, here to serve the bride, here to serve Christ, here to serve the lost. And I think the more we have that posture and the more we're faithful to living out that mission statement and the mission of the IMB, serving Southern Baptists, the more ultimately we'll get done in getting the gospel to the ends of the earth.
Yeah, I just want to say how important this is, the cooperative program. I didn't grow up in a Southern Baptist background. First time in a Southern Baptist church was coming to be the pastor of one here at First Baptist Heath. But the reason
we're still checking your membership, by the way.
Yeah. But the reason I wanted to be a Southern Baptist was for that reason. The churches cooperating together for missions. And that is just such a powerful thing and such a great model of how to do missions and get the gospel out. It's something we really should be a Southern Baptist celebrating and behind and supporting, because it really is a powerful way to see God work. And I think really it fits with the book of Acts. I mean, you're seeing very similarities to the first century church where they're banding together to send out Paul, to send out these different things. Really, we don't find local churches in isolation, right? In the New Testament. So
No, that's exactly right. It's a biblical model, and it's an effective model. In fact, there's nothing like it. There's been no way to pull resources together for the kingdom in the history of Christianity like the cooperative program. And so the Lord in his kindness is allowing us to steward that right now. And the way it pushes forward the mission is indeed a beautiful thing. We're grateful for every church that gives to the cooperative program, knowing that many of those resources make it to the IMB and allow us to send out their missionaries. 1925, so we've been at this for a while. Cooperative programs began in 1925, and we see it's an enormous impact. So just to speak to that, this is the 175th anniversary of the IMB. The IMB's ministry really began to grow and to be bolstered in 1925 when CP came into existence. And as a result of that, as we've been celebrating the 175th anniversary, looking back at our history and the impact, part of the fruit that remains is that around the world, there's 140 other Baptist conventions and unions that are the result of Southern Baptist work among the nations. So, for example, Nigerian Baptist Convention, the Colombian Baptist Convention, Venezuelan Baptist Convention. There's 9, they call themselves Southern Baptists in the Philippines. And there's like 8 or 9 Southern Baptist conventions in the Philippines. And again, 140 of those around the world where Southern Baptists have sent their missionaries out. They've made disciples, they've planted churches. Those churches have come together, and now they're sending their own missionaries out. And so we see a great legacy there.
So one thing you kind of already mentioned it, the pipeline, you guys have really kind of tried to bolster it, strengthen it, and create more avenues for every Southern Baptist to be involved in missions. So what are some of those avenues you guys have crafted to send laborers into the harvest?
Yeah, that's a great question. Go to imb.org. Anyone who's considering God's call upon your life and how he would send you and potentially send you through the IMB, and click on going, and you'll be able to see everything that I'm about to share and in great detail. In fact, you can fill an application online and we'll immediately reach out to you and begin the conversation. And that, you haven't made any commitment when a person fills out that application. It's just a way to begin the conversation. Let us begin to work with you and shepherd you as you seek God's call on your life. And so you can go on a volunteer trip. Most of our missionaries today, the Lord used a 7-day, 10-day, 14-day trip overseas around the world to begin to reveal his call ultimately for them to go as a vocational missionary. So you can take a short volunteer trip, and we have literally thousands of Southern Baptists who come on those trips every year. At least we did until COVID.
Thanks, COVID.
Yeah, it's been an interruption, but we'll be back. We'll be back.
Sure.
And then there are that's what we call short term. There are midterm opportunities where you could commit to, say, going to 2 years. The journeyman program is really our most popular in that, and that's for someone with an associate's degree or a bachelor's degree. I think up to maybe age 30 or so. And again, just 2 years experience. 40% of our career vocational missionaries have served in that journeyman experience. Wow. And then the Lord used that to call them out beyond that. And there are other midterm opportunities, 3 years, 6 to 12 months. Lots of categories for retirees, for business people who just want to take a season to invest in what God is doing among the nations, whether that's 6 months, a year, 2-3 years. And then there's the long-term career of the vocational missionary. All of those start as missionary apprentice with the IMB, which means that you're committing to a 3 to 4 year term. And there are requirements that are stipulated there for some training and education. And then you would go through the training process with us, that 7-week field personnel orientation I referenced. You
Right.
come here on the campus, and then you're sent out. And that first term, apprentice term, is opportunity for you to learn the language, learn the culture, learn about the missionary task and how to evangelize and plant churches overseas, and then evaluating how that has gone. You can roll from there into like the long-term career missionary. And we have people who serve 40 years overseas, and again, just a host of going channels and opportunities that hopefully will fit everyone.
No, I like that. I really appreciate the IMB figuring out different ways to use whatever gifting, whatever business experience. The business as mission thing I think is fantastic for the medical professional, for the accountants, whatever. And then the retirees. I know a few years ago, I had some friends who had a pension. He was like a police officer, and came through the board, got appointed. And so that's what they did. They went and served through that way.
And those career vocational skills, we have security needs around the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so a person who's had law enforcement background, we have logistical roles around the world. We have finance roles around the world. Medical, you may not be able to, people aren't aware of the fact we have more medical missionaries serving at IMB today than any time in our history.
Wow.
Sometimes narratives that, well, IMB doesn't send medical missionaries anymore, nurses, doctors, whatever. No, absolutely we do. We have more out today than ever before. And so whatever vocation that a person is training in or desires to get trained in, all of that creates opportunity. English as second language, teachers, educators, so many different pathways to go. And then, of course, there's that traditional, I've been to Bible college or to seminary.
Right.
I'm going to preach and plant churches. All of, regardless of what you're doing, business, logistics, medical, all of our people are involved in evangelism and church planting.
Correct.
But there's also still a tremendous need all over the world for that full-time, I'm here on mission to share the gospel and trained to do that, plant churches, and those individuals lead out in our strategy on larger teams.
I think it's just a good plug to tell you, if God's calling on your heart, you're like, well, I don't feel like I'm a pastor or whatever. Like, well, no, Paul was a tent maker.
So there's some other ways to still do it.
Yeah. So no matter what experience God's giving you, like if you're going to the mission field, you can use that for his glory. So don't fall back out of that.
One of the greatest needs right now is for theological educators, seminary grads, PhDs to go and teach. There's opportunities. They're literally posted on imb.org to go in many places in the world right now for those who are qualified and educated and are prepared to teach Bible college students or seminary level.
Wow.
So as we kind of come more specifically into prayer things, so what are some key pray things that we can do for the IMB? How can we pray for our brothers and sisters who are serving right now?
Yeah, thank you. I think the greatest encouragement we begin with would be to pray, the biblical prayer that the Lord would raise up workers for the harvest, because we need more missionaries, we need more candidates, and there's no greater way for us to encourage a missionary who's overseas, particularly those the work is overwhelming, they may be in an isolated area, than to send a team member alongside of them. And so pray for the Lord to raise up more workers in the harvest. Pray ultimately that the Great Commission will be accomplished. Our missionaries are there. They want to see the lost saved. They want to see the vision of heaven fulfilled. Representatives from every nation, all tribes, peoples, and languages. And so pray that their work would be fruitful, that it would be effective. And then in a practical way, just pray the Lord would sustain them. Many are in incredibly difficult places, and they pay a tremendous price for their ongoing service there. Pray the Lord would sustain them. They'd sustain them emotionally, spiritually, physically in the work. You say, well, Lord, protect them. Yeah, I pray the Lord would protect our missionaries, but they've counted the cost before they went. And we want them protected so they can be effective, but they all know that heaven is their destination and they're anxious to get there, but the Lord has left them here for a season. And so we do pray the Lord will protect them so they continue to work and be effective. And there's a lot going on in the world right now. There's some places that, with COVID, that side of it, but COVID also has created barriers. A lot of countries that like have not renewed visas for foreigners who are there. Right. And so a lot of our people are displaced right now, waiting for countries to open back up. And they've gone to work in other countries, but that's a shift, from where they live and where their kids are in school and maybe even language and culture. So just a lot of disruption. Now we're trusting the Lord's using all of that.
Amen.
But just pray that our missionaries would have that resiliency and strength to press on.
Amen. Unfortunately, sir, this is where we just undermine all of the amazing things that you just said in this interview process. Okay. So all of our special guests, we come on, we do a segment called Fast Five, where I ask you 5 completely unrelated questions to what we just talked about. Are you ready, sir?
Hey, ready as I'll ever be, I suppose.
All right. So question number 1, what's the weirdest thing that you've had to eat overseas?
Wow. So probably I was in East Asia and they brought out a bowl full of snail shells. And I'm like, well, what's that for? And they picked one of them up and literally sucked on it until a slimy snail made its way from the shell. It was dead, it had been boiled into their mouth, and then they consumed the snail. So that, and then, that was supper. So, that was one of the strangest things. The other thing, actually, recently, one of our guys from West Africa dropped by and said he had a treat for me. And
that's not good.
Yeah. Lock the doors.
I couldn't agree more. And so he handed to me a little snack, and I kind of looked at it, popped it in my mouth, and it was a fried spicy caterpillar. And if you've ever smelled a caterpillar or a caterpillar nest, then you know exactly what it tasted like.
Oh man.
And it was nasty.
So oftentimes missionaries or short-term mission trips, they go overseas. There's translators, and many people have a lost in translation story. So what is your best lost in translation story?
I'd probably use someone else for this, just so I don't have to embarrass myself too much. But I had
air quotes around the story, right?
Yeah. So I had 2 friends who traveled to South America. They were in Brazil and were there a couple weeks, I think. And the first friend had kind of grown up there, and he knew the language, Portuguese, very well. The other friend he didn't know a word. And so, he told him the word that literally means I passed gas, the phrase I passed gas. He gave him that phrase as a way of saying thank you. So every time, ladies would bring food by, and he would rub his belly and say what he was, thank you. But no, he was saying I passed gas. So, that's got a lot of mileage for sure.
I like this friend. Is he doing mission development now? Is he doing training there at FPO?
He's actually a seminary professor.
Question number 3, sir. Oftentimes we're on long airplanes for these mission trips. So what's the best seat for a long flight?
Well, the best seat for a long flight, I was traveling with a colleague coming out of, again, West Africa, who was sick. We'd been there several days in some pretty tough situation, and the food choices not exactly what you would you'd want. But so he was sick on the way back. We're sitting back in the back of the plane. The stewardess there she was just felt sorry for him because she could see how he was miserable. So she said, "There's room up front, first class. You can spread out, you can sleep." And so she takes him up there. And I thought, well, good for him. He needs that. And 30 minutes or so, she comes back and she says, all the stewardess at the front of the plane are afraid of your friend. You're coming out of West Africa, they don't know what he has, and they don't want to tend for him. Would you mind to move to first class and sit beside him and tend to him? And I said, well, yeah, okay, I like him, I'll take care of him. I got up there. He slept the whole way at that point, and I just enjoyed a nice first class ride.
You suffered for Jesus, didn't you?
A friend in need is a friend indeed.
You're doing really well in these questions. So here we're going to go a little more philosophical, sir. In the word scent, as in aroma, is it the S or the C that is silent?
Scent. I would say the C is silent.
Well played.
I don't think they're both. I think they're both there. I don't think either of them are silent.
So you're
Scent.
elongating it? Like
Yeah, I think there's a C.
scent?
I think the scent is just muted a little bit. It's not gone. It's just
Muted.
down a little bit.
Skint.
Skint. There you go.
That's actually what we did with the possums after we hunting back home in the
I mean,
mountains.
if you've eaten, now, did you eat the possum after you skinned it?
I've never eaten possum.
Okay, I was gonna say, because if you ate possum, then those snails should have been no problem.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
I mean, you've already hit the highlight.
But we did skint a few of them.
Question number 5, sir, is your last one. Excellent job. What is more ironic? Hearing the song Africa by Toto while in Africa, or celebrating Independence Day while in England?
You guys are a riot. So I actually like the song Africa by Toto. I've always liked the song Africa by Toto. And yet with appreciation of irony, I would have to say independence there in Great Britain. Yeah, definitely. That's the most ironic.
That's a red-blooded American right there. We are staking our flag wherever we are. I will say
those Brits.
a couple of a fun piece of trivia here. They had never been to Africa when they wrote that song.
Fascinating.
Yeah. And I have actually heard this song play while in Uganda. So
That's fun.
there is some truth to this irony. It can happen. Sir, you've been amazing. Thank you so much for coming on the show, sir. Really, thank you. How can people get in touch and follow what's happening with the IMB?
Yeah, so 2 ways, imb.org, our website. You can follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'm on Twitter myself. Also, we've just launched the IMB Advance the Kingdom app. And it's a really, really good tool. And you get daily prayer requests there. You can see the news that's coming out of the IMB. You can join some of our online events, virtual events through the app and download that IMB Advance, search IMB Advance in your store, app store, download that, and it'll be a great vehicle for you to stay connected with us. And listen, appreciate you guys having me on. Appreciate your support of our missionaries and Christ's mission around the world. Privileged to be with you today and privileged to be serving with you.
Amen.
Thanks so much for coming on. It was a real blessing and treat. So, very good. So that was a really good interview. What did you think?
I was blown away about obviously his Fast 5 questions. I mean, navigated those very well. Who knew that you could be an SBC entity head and have such a great sense of humor? Like, you would think that'd be antithetical to the job description, right? But
yeah, no, he's really awesome. And I think, just we may have people outside of the SBC world just to maybe take a moment and think about and talk about how the cooperative program, how we do missions and why we do missions in this way. As I talked about in the interview, I mean, I didn't grow up in an SBC church, and so one of the reasons I chose to be a Southern Baptist is the cooperative program. I've got friends that have, that are missionaries that spend a significant amount of their time fundraising.
yeah. I mean, because in the old school model, which we talked about, you have one foot on the home field and another half on the other, and it's just how do you spend all your focus time, right? And it's almost like some of the dollars that you send are spending that way, but 100% of the things that you send in for Lottie Moon and through the cooperative program money is specifically sent for these people to do the things God has called them to do. And what a wonderful privilege to be able to provide for that. That they can do that.
I know in other models you do the deputation thing where you travel 3, 4, 5 years.
That's an excellent word. Deputation.
Okay.
That's impressive.
I know. Well, okay.
Not to be confused with deputized, right? Because nobody shot the sheriff. We're
for 3 to 4 to 5 years, and the missionary literally travels the country with his family, staying in hotels, staying in prophet chambers,
which costs money that also.
And so you've got 3 to 4 to 5 years of funding somebody to travel the country, which it may sound fun at first, but I think every missionary would tell you it's probably fun for the first 2 weeks, and then after that you're tired of eating out on the road. But all of that missions money then is funding them fundraising effectively. And I don't know the statistics, but I know they're pretty high. There's a lot of guys that never finish deputation.
Yeah, it's true.
So if they raise, let's say $30,000 a year for 3 years, there's almost $100,000 that was given towards mission that never actually touched a foreign field.
And one of the great points that I really appreciate Dr. Chitwood brought out was, the IMB is not our mission agency. They are the equipping agency that's partnering with the local church to get the local church members out into the ends of the earth to spread the gospel. Because, a few weeks ago we had our missions conference here, and we actually had an IMB personnel here on property, and it was just mind-blowing just how polished and strategically focused these IMB missionaries are on doing the work of God. It's not this, well, I think I'll do this, or I think I'll do that over here. I mean, they are laser focused on doing what they need to get done, the strategy for.
Yeah, no, and that's something that I really noticed. And then, again, having a number of friends that are missionaries not with the SBC, and they're all great people, but they're effectively on their own in a lot of cases. Like, they're thrown on the foreign field, and they have to come up with the strategy. They have to come up with the plan, and they got to do it all. But the IMB is equipping and guiding these men and women, and there's a plan that's there, and then they're inserting people into the plan, right? Like, I mean, it's really just a really awesome, comprehensive thing. So there's one negative that we always hear with cooperative program, and it's a legitimate negative, and it is, go.
They don't make the Lottie Moon Christmas offering ornament anymore.
Okay, that's not it.
I think if I'm picking up what you're laying down, I think it's some of the times the distance between the connection, right? Because when the deputation model, there's constantly a missionary and they're constantly talking to you and asking for money. And so because of the cooperative program, sometimes there's a disconnect between the field missionary and the local church body.
And that's a very legitimate concern. I'd push back on that in a couple of different ways, and I'm sure you will too before we're done. One is most of those churches that are doing the deputation type model have 20, 30, 40, 50 missionaries. They don't know them anyway, right? Maybe a couple of them. But by and large, the average missionary their church supports could show up on Sunday, and people wouldn't even know that it's a missionary. That's point number one. And I think another point is just saying we have every opportunity to partner with missionaries and get to know them, just like we did with I almost said their name. I don't think I should. But he's on our website, so I probably could. But you're just the mission partner that was here a couple weeks ago. And so there's opportunity to build those relationships and do those things.
Oh, yeah. And the IMB constantly is looking for churches to partner. There's a lady at the IMB there in Richmond. Her name's Barb. Hopefully I'm not dropping security things, but I mean, I
think Barb's a generic enough name that she should be safe. Okay.
We love you, Barb. You are a true friend of the show. Well, because you helped get us in the missionary that was here a couple weeks ago. Yeah, I mean, they will set you up with all sorts of contacts, but you have to take the first step. I think, the old school deputation model, they're also, you got to remember, because in order to fundraise, because not every church is dropping $10,000 a year on the one missionary. Right. It's a lot of little donations. So you're one of probably 150 different churches.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So there's not only is there not a personal connect from this side, but from the other side going back. And with the IMB, they really take that serious about developing a relationship between the local church and the field missionary. And so any of the mission partnerships that I've been a part of, they really take seriously, you're a part of our church family now. And it's a great relationship, and they take serious their responsibility of discipling and training the church teams that come over there, and realizing that these church mission trips are coming back to do the mission work back in the U.S. And so they're partnering along with the discipleship process, and not just, hey, you're taking a fun vacation and talking about Jesus a few days. It truly is a phenomenal thing. And
and not to harp on this, but just because we're talking about it, and something not often talked about, but on the morning show,
we talk about
we go where no one else goes, right?
That's right. Like Star Trek, but we're Star Wars
You have
fans.
to understand, every church is different.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And every church has different things that they do or don't do. And so a lot of these missionaries, they have to almost, every church they go to in this fundraising thing, they've sort of got to think about, what does this church expect me to do? It puts them in a very awkward position. Yeah. Like, what do I need to wear at this church so that I don't offend them? What translation do I need to preach from so I don't offend them? I make sure my family, we don't post a picture doing X on Facebook or being at X because it'll offend half my supporting. Like,
looking at you, Starbucks.
You put yourself in a position where you sort of have to try to appease all of these different churches that all have different positions, and it just creates a sort of an unhealthy fundraising, selling yourself kind of an environment.
So one more thing before we skedaddle and say Merry Christmas to everybody. Dr. Chitwood sort of highlighted in the interview, but there are a ton of different avenues for people to get involved. Obviously, there's the classic way of being full-time missionary. You start as an apprentice, you do a 3-year term, and then you come back and they approve everything, and now you're full-term. But a lot of missionaries go through the 2-year program called Journeyman, which is for a college graduate. And then they spend 2 years on the field getting to do the work, and that's actually their apprenticeship. And many of them turn back around and become full-time missionaries. But then there's things for students, for high school students, where they can go for a semester, a summer semester. There's college students, they can go for a year and actually go alongside these IMB missionaries and be doing the work. It's not like some cheesy internship with Google or something where you're just getting coffee. Like, you're legitimately partnering in the work. And it's really neat to see some of these partnerships happen. There's stuff for seniors as well. They have a master's program for seniors where it's like your retirement can be used to fund you to go over. There are a ton of different ways to go. There's medical missions.
Yeah, medical. He even said security. Teaching. I mean, there's just awesome
the mission guy who came in here, he said the biggest need where they serve right now is teaching. Is theological training for the local pastors. So
yeah, lots of great opportunities, lots of great ways to go.
So be involved. Check out imb.org. That is their website. A ton of great stuff there. There's also amazing prayer resources there for the missions. You can sign up for a daily thing in your email that'll tell you live from the field what the missionaries need prayer for in the moment. So it's a great resource. Highly recommend that.
Yeah, make sure you like the morning show page as we transition out to season 2. During the break, we'll be showing some reruns during the break of some past shows.
So let us know, like, what are the highlights you want to see again? What are some of the reruns? Quick hot take question.
Oh, boy.
Because we're going to be celebrating. We're now officially in Christmas season. So, favorite Christmas song?
I hate them all.
Scrooge.
The
Grinch? The Grinch.
Christmas
The Grinch.
Song. The Grinch is pretty cool. I like the Grinch. That's like, what's your favorite Disney cartoon character? Mine is Branch before he got joyful. I like the old
Before
Branch.
the actually notes come in, that's DreamWorks and not Disney. So we'll disclaimer that. Yeah.
But I like that Branch. That was awesome.
You like the
Controls.
Branch guy. That's true. It's Justin Timberlake. It's weird to see him be non-positive, right? After NSYNC and the highlights.
I mean, as far as like ones we sing in church, All Come Emmanuel. I like that one. That's sort of an Advent-y song. I don't know. Grandma got ran over by a reindeer. I don't know. What are you?
Well, the one that I like to make fun of the most is Mary, did you know? 'Cause she did.
Yeah, the angel told her.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. As well as anything about wise men, because then I get to rant. See, most of my favorite picks are so that
all
I
right,
can
season
rant.
2 is coming soon. we got to hear this for another month. We don't need, we don't need too much of it.
But
now.
seriously, thank you everyone for tuning in, watching, becoming fans of the show. Actual fans of the show.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
We'll
Merry
have
Christmas.
lots of cool stuff in season 2. We don't know what it is yet, but it'll be cool, new, and different.
Cool, new, and different.
Yeah.
That's our tagline for the morning show season 2. Cool, new, and different.
Lots of great guests if they'll come on.
We're getting more friends of the show. All right, guys. We'll see you later. See you in 2021.
Yep, and the Russell Moore drop. Goodbye.